On this blessed Christmas Eve, I simply want to tell to you a story. It's a story, a legend that comes from Serbia that is told as something that is true. It's told of folks who lived in a valley, farmers there who tend to their animals, grow their crops, and all is well until there's a time when a storm comes. And a storm always means something dramatic is going to change. Always an omen that something important will occur. Well, the storm came and the storm passed. And the mother of one family came outside and saw that an infant had been left at their door. She looked at the child. He was very small, just little and helpless, and she brought him inside, but she noticed there was something about him that she thought was not quite right. She looked again and she saw, he's not one of us. He's a foreign one. And she said to her family, look, and also look at this, look at his eyes. He's blind. But they brought him in and they raised him, not as their own, but with decency and kindness and a degree of respect, but always as one who was separate, not entirely belonging in all things. But he grew, and he was sensitive, and he was thoughtful, and a time came when he could feel his way around. He could feel faces to know what people look like, so to speak. He could find his way through the fields and the valleys, and he could farm, and he could tend animals, which was a particularly good thing to be able to do. And he grew. He grew well. He wasn't shorted his food or abused in any way, but he was always not included. And the one thing he wanted most of all to do was to be able to go to the great church with the family. He would hear them leave. He would hear the church bells in the distance, and then he would hear them come back with joy and have a festive meal. And he so wanted to be included. And he would ask, but the mother would say to him, but you can't. You are foreign to us, and you are blind. You are, as we say, one of the cursed of the world. So the church and the God and Mother Mary are just not for you. She said it not unkindly, she just said it because she thought it was true. And so it was that they would go and they would come and he would wait. And the time that was most particularly difficult was, of course, this time of year, of Christmas. Because that would be the evening when towards midnight he would hear the mother waken the children and say, come, it is time for us to go and celebrate the birth of the Christ child. And he would hear the bells ring, and he so longed to go. But he never went because he was not included. Now the priest of the village was a kindly man, and he tried to teach the boy something of the Church of God and the birth of Christ so that, as he said, he would not live and die in complete ignorance. And he would stop by often, talk with the boy, tell him the stories while the boy was tending his sheep. He would sit and talk, and the boy would ask questions. He would say, this God, is he the big king? You may call him that. And this Christ you call the baby Jesus, is he the small king? Yes. And Mary, he is the small king's mother? Is that what you would call her? And they are all in the church yonder. No, said the priest. They're in heaven. Only their images are in the church. But if I entered it, I could feel their faces and I would know what they look like, wouldn't I? I would know them as I know my sheep, wouldn't I? And the old priest would sigh and he'd say, yes, but it's the law of the church and we cannot break it. The people of the valley would not permit it. They have consecrated the church with their own vows, even as the bishop consecrated it long ago with holy water. No foreign child who is blind can enter, because my entering would defile it. So they think. It's a long story, son. Maybe someday I will tell it to you. Then I shall never have a part of Christmas? Short of a miracle, son. No. So again, Christmas Eve came, and the mother called the children, and they headed to the church, and the bells tolled, and the time had come to celebrate the birth of the Christ child. And the boy stayed back in his shed, and he said to himself, well, this can't be that much different from the place where the Christ was born, so I will just keep Christmas here, in the stable. But that night there was a storm again. And a storm always means that something dramatic is going to happen. A storm always means an omen of great change. But during the storm, one of his sheep, just a little ewe, broke out of her enclosure, and she ran into the hills and got tangled in a thorn bush. And she was so frightened by the storm that she kicked and she kicked and she kicked until she broke her leg. But he followed her, and he found her, and he tore his tunic, and he took a stick, and he splinted her leg and brought her back and set her down in the hay and said, there, small one, I have heard it said that this is Christmas Eve, so we will keep Christmas together. And when the bells rang again and the worship service was done, he turned to the little ewe and he said, I have heard it said that all creatures kneel to celebrate the birth of the Christ child. Can you kneel? So the little ewe got up on her hind legs, even the broken one, and bent down on her forelegs as if she would kneel in the hay beside him. And he said, there, we will keep Christmas together. And he prayed. He prayed that someday someone would bring him to the church so he could worship the small king with all the others. And as he prayed, he felt a shoulder on his hand. He felt a hand on his shoulder. And he said, can words fly so fast to heaven as a bird? And a voice said to him, some words can. Did the big king send you to bring me to the church? Perhaps. But perhaps better to keep company with you here, so that you might not have Christmas Eve alone. And who are you? Just a boy like yourself? Blind? Not blind. Oh, I'm blind and I would see, but people say I'm blind and never will. I want to see the face of the small king. If I could put my hand out and feel his face, and the hand took his hand and said, here, touch mine, and you will see. The midnight service ended. The people came out of the church and they saw a light. Someone said, it's over there. Another said, no, it's over there. The priest said, it's over there. So the people came, all of them, and they came to the little shed where that little blind boy, always with his animals, there he was. And when they came in, they could not believe what they saw, because they saw the boy kneeling, and the ewe with the broken leg next to him kneeling, and the Christ kneeling with them all. And they were overwhelmed and amazed, and they all knelt and worshiped. And the old priest spoke low with humility. This is the miracle. It is we who have been blind. It is here that the Christ comes to us. And the church bells tolled in the distance, and the people stayed in the shed and worshiped. And we come here to this special and sacred place. But if the confirmation of our faith here does not take us with conviction where Jesus would have us go, then we've remained blind. But God calls us to see, even in these days when our world, our lives, our news, it's so complicated and it's dark, and sometimes it is very hard to see Jesus. But in our broken places, in our solitudes, in our overlooked places, the most unexpected places, Jesus is with us there. Places, we know them so well. And so does he. So does Jesus, who comes and kneels with us in our real places, so that we may kneel with him here and rise in his radiance to go there. Amen.